is Top Accurate Global News Update. I am Abiodun Mohammed. Russia's defense minister accompanied North Korean leader Kim Jong Un to a defense exhibition that featured the North's banned ballistic missiles as the neighbors pledged to boost ties. North Korean state media reported on Thursday the Russian minister Sergei Shoigu and a Chinese delegation led by a Communist Party politburo member arrived in North Korea this week for the 70th anniversary of the end of the Korean War, celebrated in North Korea as Victory Day. The nuclear-capable missiles were banned under UN Security Council resolutions adopted with Russian and Chinese support, but this week they provided a striking backdrop for a show of solidarity by three countries united by their rivalry with the US and a revival of what some analysts see as their Cold War-era coalition. Shoigu is making the first visit by a Russian defense minister to North Korea since the fall of the Soviet Union. For North Korea, of the Russian and Chinese delegations, marks its first major opening up to the world since the COVID-19 pandemic. Israeli forces have killed a 14-year-old Palestinian teen in the occupied West Bank, according to the Palestinian Health Ministry, marking the latest death amid a surge of violence in the region. The shooting, which was announced early on Thursday, occurred in the city of Kalkilia as Israeli forces reportedly stormed a local neighborhood overnight, resulting in clashes. Residents told newsmen that neighborhood youth threw rocks at the soldiers, who responded with gunfire. The Palestinian news agency Wafa identified the victim as teenager Faris Abu Samra. Local news reports indicated he had been shot in the head. The bloodshed happened only hours after another Palestinian man was killed in the West Bank raid further south in the Al Ain refugee camp on the outskirts of Nablus. Israeli troops said they entered the camp to arrest a "suspected militant," but as soldiers encircled the house in the refugee camp, a gunfight ensued, resulting in Mohammed Abdel Al-Hakim Nada being shot in the chest. He later died from his injuries. Officials have warned that 2023 is on track to be the deadliest year for Palestinians in the West Bank since the United Nations began keeping track of fatalities in 2005. Typhoon Doksuri lashed southern Taiwan on Thursday after battering the Philippines, where the storm's ferocious winds and rains triggered floods and landslides that killed at least 6 people. The storm, categorized at the second strongest typhoon level by Taiwan's Weather Bureau, was heading towards the southern Taiwan Strait with maximum winds of 191 km per hour on Thursday morning. Doksuri has lost some of its strength since it lashed the northern Philippine coastline on Wednesday, bursting banks of rivers, flooding low-lying villages, and unleashing dozens of landslides. In the Boguyas town in Benguet province, a landslide buried a house, killing a mother, a child, and 2 other children. In the nearby resort city of Baguio, a 17-year-old teen was killed when soil, loosened by heavy rains, buried his house, officials said. In Isabela province, also in the north, a woman selling bread on a bicycle cart died when she was hit in the head by a falling coconut tree, a police report said. In Taiwan on Thursday, the Weather Bureau issued wind and rain warnings for the southern part of the island, including the major port city of Kaohsiung, where businesses and schools were closed, and landslide warnings issued. Dozens of people protested outside the Central Bank of Iraq in Baghdad, while bank owners urged action as the Iraqi dinar fell after the United States blacklisted 14 Iraqi banks. The demonstrations took place on Wednesday as the 14 banks issued a joint statement calling on the Iraqi government to intervene. The private banks are banned from dealing with US dollars for reportedly siphoning funds to Iran, as well as on suspicion of money laundering. The latest US sanctions are in addition to previous ones on 8 banks, leaving almost a third of Iraq's 72 banks blacklisted. 2 Iraqi central bank officials said the ban has pushed the market rate of the dollar from 1,470 dinar per dollar to 1,570 dinar per dollar in the last 2 days. The protests outside the central banks were organized by the Tuwa Tishrin, a group that started mass protests in 2021, calling on the government to take action to halt inflation. Chocolate and coffee makers, including Italy's Lavazza and Cadbury maker Mondelez, are concerned about the practicalities of a new European Union law aimed at stopping deforestation. The pushback comes despite voluntary public commitment by the companies themselves and the broader coffee and cocoa industry to clean up supply chains using audits carried out by third parties like Fairtrade. Agreed in December, the law is expected to come into force at the end of 2024. Importers of coffee, cocoa, beef, soy, rubber, and palm oil must prove their supply chains aren't contributing to the destruction of forests, a cause of climate change, or be fined up to 4% of their turnover in the bloc. Several major investors told pressmen last month that concerns about their exposure to the issue would lead them to quit consumer goods makers with risky supply chains. In quote, it will be very difficult to implement this law in practical terms because the coffee supply chain is very complex and traceability is very difficult, Lavazza Group Chairman Giuseppe Lavazza told newsmen. The EU rules will be hard to implement without more guidance, Lavazza said, pointing to the large number of intermediaries involved in coffee. That is the size of top accurate global news updates. You can follow us on our social media platforms as displayed on your screen. Happy Thursday!